Valor Mongolis, everybody. We are the Hype Watch, and we're back again for another Song of Ice and Fire epic reread chapter breakdown. And this one we are doing is A Feast for Crows, Jaime number 7. And with us as our special guest today, we have Aziz from History of Westeros. You know, say what's up to everybody out there. Let them know who you are. Even though
hey,
I'm
everybody.
Pretty sure they already know.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? I'm Aziz from History of Westeros podcast. We do YouTube and podcast stuff, and I'm a big fan of A Feast for Crows. I'm a big fan of the Jaime chapters, and I'm excited to be here with y'all to talk about it today. It's a great chapter. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and as always, you know, I always have other people from the watch. We have Lady Tinker Jasso. We have Sir L.T. Giles, we've got Mr. James Michelle, and last but certainly not least, Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat, apparently being covered up by the chat. Sorry about that.
Oh, well.
Alright, so this was the final chapter of Jaime's in A Feast for Crows, and it's the, you know, the one right before that fateful one where Brienne lures him to go see the Brotherhood without banners unknowingly, but this is the one, you know, just after the Blackfish escapes. And this was a very interesting chapter because we get a big info dump in terms of things that have been going on in the Riverlands and some of the internal politics when it comes to the family Frey, because, you know, even though Walder is still alive, there are so many different Frey factions because Walder has married so many wives that all of these sons are now trying to figure out how they can be the next Lord of the Twins. And, you know, Aziz actually picked this chapter, so, you know, I'd like to start off with you. Your thoughts about kind of the opening of this chapter where damn, I'm trying to remember which Frey it was that was up there talking about he wanted to hang
Emmon.
Huh?
Emmon.
Yes, Emmon Frey. Oh my god, this guy was hilarious. He talking about how he wants to hang Edmure for letting the Blackfish escape. But yeah, your thoughts on the opening of the chapter.
All right, well, as far as the opening of the chapter goes, like you said, it starts with the realization that Blackfish is gone, and everyone's really worried about this, even though he's just one guy. And that goes to show how important he is and how feared he is, especially by someone like Jaime, who grew up idolizing this man. So he understands how dangerous he is, even though, you know, all the rest of the soldiers and Edmure himself have all surrendered. They still are worried about Blackfish, and Emmon Frey is a paranoid guy and someone who makes us hate the Freys even more. I mean, it's hard to like the Freys by this point, and most people are going to be hating them by this point, and you're going to hate them even more after this chapter because Emmon Frey is just so pathetic and in a kind of hilarious way. And the chapter proceeds to add more and more levels. Just as I could say, one thing I'd like to say about Feast for Crows in general is, when it came out, there was a lot of frustration because of the lack of Jon and Davos and Tyrion and Dany and Arya and a lot of the main characters. And I was one of those people that waited years and years for that book, and there was a lot of frustration about it. Over the last 12 years since it's come out, though, anyone who hasn't gone back to read A Feast for Crows probably feels the same as they did when they read it the first time. But us, those, you know, people who are here, y'all in the Hypes Watch, all of us have read the books multiple times, and Feast is one of the best books to reread because it's the most subtle of the 5, I think. And this chapter is a perfect example of that because there's so many things going on that if you're not paying attention, you miss huge things, just like Thomas Evans or, you know, some little things like that. So yeah, that's my I've got a lot to say about this chapter because there's so much that happens in it. And I think it's a great example of why Feast for Crows is sometimes overlooked by the wider fandom. But you know, people like you guys and all of us know better.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to unpack with this chapter. And LT, I know you were saying that you absolutely loved this chapter. So, you know, real quick, your thoughts on the beginning with Emmon Frey and the whole Blackfish situation.
Oh, it's just Emmon Frey is an idiot, and um, you know, um, it's just a mystery, of where the Blackfish is heading, what he's doing, and that smile that Edmure gives Jaime, when he finds out that Blackfish is gone. I wanted it to be adapted to the show so bad, but of course they missed it. But no, this chapter is amazing,
All right, Tinker, your thoughts on the opening of the chapter?
It's if you've seen me in any video that we've talked about Freys, you already know that I hate them with a passion of 1,000 suns. I hate them so much, and any episode that has Frey stalking just drives me to a homicidal rage. And it's just this chapter is hard for me. Feast for Crows was hard for me because yes, there's like 2 Arya chapters, and there's a lot of the Riverlands falling and the Lannisters and the Freys getting what they want after the bloody red wedding. But as Aziz said, there's also kind of little hints, that if you're not careful, you could miss that kind of hint that things might not always be the same. The mention of Lady Stoneheart, a few hangings, Tom, which we already know is from the Brotherhood, and we know the Brotherhood is under Lady Stoneheart, and they're the one, and she's in the whole let's kill all the Freys mission, which I am completely in favor. But I've got to admit, just seeing Emmon, how do you pronounce his name? Emmon, and Emmon.
However you want.
Probably any way you want. That's what George says.
Well, you know who I mean. Just, he's like, I'm the Lord, I'm the Lord, I'm the Lord. Like, oh, but crying out loud, just shut up. No, just, it reminded me, when Tywin said to Joffrey, if you have to say you're a king, then you're not a king. And I kept thinking that if you kept saying that you're the Lord of Riverrun, just, you really are. Like, seriously, just step aside and let your wife rule. She might be a Lannister and I might not like her, but at least she's competent. She's not a pathetic idiot. And I kind of like seeing the Freys fight each other because I am one of my greatest fantasies that in a future book we'll have a Frey civil war in which they'll massacre each other. And no one will survive except the kids, the women, and then they just can kick them out and either destroy the twins or someone else comes in and rule. So
they'll make they'll make Robb Squire Lord of the Freys and get rid of all the rest of them.
No, because it would still have the Frey name. The Frey name.
No, but he was a good Frey.
He was a good guy, though.
There has to be in the books that they were annihilated, destroyed. There's nothing left.
You're talking about genocide, Tink. That's
you're talking about some evil shit.
Oh well.
All of them have to die. Just that they can be exiled. They can lose their surname. Just the Frey name has to disappear.
So who are you gonna give the crossing to, or the twins to? I mean,
someone else from the Riverlands. I don't care at this point. I just don't want it to be them. Marry Oliver to someone else and have him take her name. Just
how about Thomas Evans? Let's not let him have the twins.
Yeah, there we go.
He'll have earned it.
Good thing Jon Snow isn't here. He'd be like, Tink, what are you talking about? The sin. He'd be like on the show. The sins aren't can't hold the kids to the sins of their family.
And I'm not saying they should be killed. They just should lose the name and the shield and the everything.
But that's what Jon said in the show. He said like you can't take away their stuff. I mean.
Oh yeah, I can.
Okay, we know what kind of Queen Tinker would be then.
Yeah, we know.
Oh man! All right, Jerry.
Evil.
Your thoughts on the opening of this chapter?
Yeah, like I mean, I'm much more rational than Tink, so I know that there are a lot of great, or not great, but there's a lot of good Freys out there. And if you really want to know deep down who the good and the bad, I would suggest
That's
listening
a contradiction. Good and Frey.
Look, let me finish here. I was trying to put a plug in. I was like, if you want to know a good distinction about who the good Freys, who the bad Freys, who deserve the Tink punishment, who deserved maybe get off, you should listen to History of Westeros' podcast episode of the Freys. They did a pretty big breakdown on like who is who on the Freys. It was kind of a long time ago, so
It was a while ago, before World of Ice and Fire. I think that was like 2013 or 2012. Yeah. That was fun. A little confusing. I've forgotten most of that work.
It's a good breakdown though, of who the good Freys. But this Edmund Frey, he is one of the bad ones, and he is a total fool. He deserves everything bad that's going to come at him pretty soon. I haven't seen an idiot wave a piece of paper about how they rule like that since Ned came in the throne room with this piece of paper. We all saw how that's gonna that worked out. We all saw how that worked out. Same thing or worse is gonna happen to Edmund here. So,
listen. At the end of it, Tink. I mean, look. I know you're. You fly the Stark banner high, but yeah, Ned was a fool. We have to admit that. We have to be.
Don't compare him to a Frey. You can say that he's a fool, not compared to him to a Frey.
They're doing the same thing here. I mean, similar actions.
Skype
and not
similar idiots.
But they're gonna walk in the throne room talking about, oh, this is my paper. He just presented it like a civil person. He didn't sit there waving it around. No, come on, no, not even.
Same one.
No.
Same.
All right. Well, before we get too off into the woods,
I do want to mention the Blackfish. What a badass! I mean, this guy, he's like a freaking fox. He should name him to the Black Fox because he's like a cornered fox. He is extremely dangerous, and even Edmund Frey is as stupid as he is. He's smart enough to realize that this guy is freaking dangerous. You gotta get rid of him. Got to get him out of the picture because he is like a. How about? Let's go to a sports metaphor. He is like a Deion Sanders. He could turn he could flip the game on a heartbeat. I mean, look what he did. Look what he did for Robb when he was battling Tywin.
In that we agree, but you give Emmon too much credit. Emmon is even scared of Edmure. He's scared of his own shadow.
I'm trying to build up the Blackfish here, all right?
Blackfish is badass. It was part of why I picked this chapter because we just did, over on History of Westeros, we just did a Blackfish episode, so I had all that stuff fresh in my mind, and I was like, yeah, let me pick something related, at least tangentially related to Blackfish, yeah.
All right, well, let's go to...
how his wife puts him in his place.
Let's go to the man, the myth, the legend, JB. Let him get his say in here.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, Feast for Crows is one of my favorites, mainly because of Jaime's POV and Cersei's POV for different reasons. Cersei's is just hilariously, just watching someone fail. And Jaime's, I think he actually, and he portrayed it through this whole chapter, I think he has a pretty dry wit to him that I like. Not as witty as Tyrion, but, they kind of have that kind of same witty repartee. In terms of the beginning of this chapter, Emmon Frey, I mean, to me, when I read this guy talking, I envision John Waters. I don't know if you know who John Waters is, but he's got the thin penciled mustache and kind of meek looking. He kind of looks like a cartoon, like a cartoon villain or something, like a 1940s cartoon villain is kind of how I envision Emmon Frey. And he's got and it's weird. It was weird kind of seeing him do this because earlier in the book, he was definitely very submissive to Jenna. And now all of a sudden he's standing up and doing this whole spiel, and he just looks like an idiot. And George does a good job of, I mean, I know that he likes to be somewhat subversive and have gray characters, but he is good at writing completely detestable characters with no different shades, just completely trash people that you just love to hate. And I mean, Emmon Frey is right there. And when it comes to the Blackfish, I mean, the Blackfish is just, I mean, he's one of the most badass characters in the book. One of my favorites in the book. To me, he's kind of like a different personality than Oberyn Martell, but kind of like that same kind of wild card personality, kind of he'll do what he wants sort of mentality and in a badass manner. Obviously, he's not, promiscuous like Oberyn Martell, but I think he's kind of got that same kind of wild card kind of attitude towards them. He's one of my favorites, but yeah, this chapter is great. I like this chapter.
you know what this relationship reminds me of? This Edmund and Jenna. If anyone's ever seen Sanford and Son, he reminds me of freaking Woody and Esther. Do you remember that guy? Don Willie? Come on.
That's an old school reference right there.
That is an old school
Not
reference.
as much, I'll be honest with you.
Really? Well, anyone who likes that show.
All I remember about Sanford and Son is the intro, but I haven't seen an episode of that in years.
Yeah, it's pretty funny that she used to boss him around and he'd be like, "Stop messing with my wife. I need a drink." Oh, you kind of reminded me a lot of Edmund.
All right, well, listen, I'll have to check out Sanford and Son again. It's been a while, like LT said. So, you know, all I just remember is him calling his son a big dummy all the damn time.
Yeah,
plenty of that. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Big dummy.
All right,
Can I mention something about? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, LT.
I was gonna say, can I mention something about Jaime? It has to do with more of the last chapter, but one thing I've thought about Jaime is like people, hate him because he pushed Bran out the window, but like if you're inside his head, if these characters could be inside their head, they would respect him more. As far as Ned find him on the throne room, doesn't know he basically was a hero. Blackfish doesn't know that this dude is holding to this oath that technically he shouldn't even respect because he had a knife to his throat and he was drunk. He didn't have to like say, I don't want to take arms up against Starks. He could have been like, fuck that. That oath wasn't nothing, but he's holding to it. There's some honorable about this guy, and nobody knows. And I think Blackfish would have respected him more if he knew. And Ned would have respected him more if he knew, but he doesn't, obviously. But there's some honor to Jaime.
This is why it's important to read Dunk and Egg, because Jaime finds himself in this issue where he's like, so many oaths are conflicting. You got oaths to a bad king doing this and that. Yet here in the Hedge Knight, you have him saying, well, the only way to be a truly good and true knight is to be a Hedge Knight, so where you're not beholden to a possibility of a terrible king or bad. You're not stuck with maybe having to follow the orders of a Robert or an Ares or anything. You're free to be for the people.
And he quits Cersei at the end of this chapter, which is pretty much really in line with what you're saying there. So yeah, I totally agree.
My main problem with Jaime doesn't have to do any of those things. He fucked his twin sister, got her pregnant.
When?
3 times, knowing the problem that could cause the entire realm. He was basically his sister's little bitch, knowing that she was fucking crazy, because let's be honest, he knew, he just didn't want to admit it. He could have done many other things. He let himself become a wild guard because he couldn't live without Cersei. He was weak. Let's be honest. No. He was strong in some parts, but when it came emotionally to his family, he was weak. He couldn't say no to Cersei. He couldn't say no to his father. He had no personality with them. He did what they asked of him and got the realm into a disaster situation, which broke out into a war, which a lot of people died. So there's a part of him, the knight part of him, that yes, he is honorable, but there's another part of him, the one that got himself in the situation in which he thought that his only way out was to throw a little boy out a tower he's not
to be fair, he saved him first. Like, Bran was falling off the tower, Jaime saved him, and he's like, that changed my mind.
A little boy out a window because he can't say no to his bitch crazy sister. Let's put things how it is.
He's definitely flawed. I mean, I don't think anyone can argue against that. I mean, he's definitely a flawed person. But there's aspects of his personality that I personally enjoy when I'm reading his POV, and I'm not overlooking his flaws. That he definitely has made a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, it's like, I think with him, it's like George is asking the philosophical question, like, what would have been truly more honorable if he would have continued letting the Mad King burning people alive, or if he did kill him. Like, what's truly the more honorable act? Because to the people of that world, it is more honorable if he just wouldn't have killed the Mad King.
Yeah,
which is preposterous.
Even to some of the good guys like Selmy and Ned, it's more honorable to have let those people die than to kill Ares.
But they didn't know the entire circumstances. They didn't know that Ares was giving orders to burn the entire city down. He never said anything. So the only thing that they saw is that his father was invading, killing everyone, and he decided to kill the king. You know, that's the only thing he knew. So they didn't have all the you know, you know. So
I will be.
I'm not saying that he does have like, but yes, I don't say not to enjoy his chapters, because I do enjoy his chapters a great deal. I really enjoy his chapters, but let's not only focus on the knightly part. That part is, you know, there's another part of Jaime that people forget once he starts redeeming himself and people start knowing that other side of it.
It's tricky because it's unlike a real person, you know, and this is, again, the function of the books, and something that's different about the books as compared to the show or even real life, is we get to see his honest, truthful inner thoughts, you know, and so that's why, like, we don't forgive his old deeds, but because we know the transformation, or at least partly, is genuine, because he's a POV and we can see inside his head, and we know that he's really having these honest to God redemptive thoughts. Even though he's not fully redeemed, I completely agree with that. It helps to know that he's on the right track and that he's honestly on the right track. Like, if he wasn't a POV character, we'd be like, is he really, you know, we would have, you know, infinitely less certainty about what's really going on with him. He'd be like, there'd be a lot of people think, oh, he's not really turning around, you know, he's not really becoming good. But since we see inside his head, we kind of, you know, it's a different perspective that you can't really get on TV or in real life or anything else. So that's something huge to keep in mind, I think.
I mean, the bottom line with Jaime, I've always seen him kind of like as almost an amoral character with a little bit of lean to good. But the problem is that he's not really selfish. He doesn't really care about anything. He doesn't give, most of the time, he doesn't give a crap about anybody or anything, or he just doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever, you do whatever you want. I'm just going to do my own thing. But the problem is, the thing, he ended up falling in love with a horrible person. So a lot of the times he was doing whatever he thought would make her happy, which was a lot of bad stuff because this bitch is crazy. So
I disagree. I actually think Jaime, like, not now, but I think Jaime started out being a very, very selfish person. Not in the obvious way, the one that he doesn't need a lot of things. He just needs one thing, to still have that connection with his sister, to have that relationship with his sister that is essential to him, because his relationship with his father is completely fucked up, because let's be honest, they was raised by a crazy mad tyrant, not insane in the way of the mad king, but in his own way. And the only thing that it made life bearable for him was his sister. And to have that, he was willing to do anything and everything. He knows that tarring those bastards it's a bad business, and it's not good for anyone. He's not an idiot. We've seen it. He's very smart. But he just doesn't care. To have that sister, he at the first books, he was willing to burn down that world as long as he had Cersei. That is the definition of selfish. Just because it's not.
Oh, wait, no. The definition of selfish is doing something for yourself.
It's selfish.
Yeah, and this is the kind of selfishness that we see from Cersei in the show, that she just outright declares we're the only ones who matter. You know, that kind of stuff. And Jaime kind of goes along with it until the end of this chapter. Jaime is basically going along with that.
He doesn't care about this whole world. Like, he doesn't care about burning it down. All he cares about, like, if he could like live in a hut with his sister, he doesn't even need the kids. If he can just do that,
it's true.
And everyone else could do their own thing, he'd be, you know, just fine with that. He doesn't care. He's not like taking things from other people for himself. He just.
Oh, but that doesn't stop him from being selfish, because he does all of that for his sister. He's taken away Riverrun.
You just said he does it for his sister. That's not selfish. That's for his sister.
Yes, no, because he needs his sister. He wants that relationship with his sister, and to have that, he will do anything. That is selfish. Just because it's not the obvious way for selfish, it doesn't take it away.
Yeah,
if he wasn't selfish, he wouldn't go near his sister. He would leave that relationship for his good, for the good of the world, for the good of everything.
Yeah, we only have one chapter after this. Not in this book, even. Only one. Jaime only has one chapter in Dance, and it's when he goes off with Brienne, and we're all, oh, well, what's going to happen now?
And I was never trying to say that Jaime is the most honorable person. I just think it takes a lot of honor to hold to an oath that you shouldn't even be obligated to take to. And I agree, Jaime is very selfish. I mean, one of the most selfish things I think he did is had sex with his sister in front of Joffrey's body. I mean, that's pretty sick right there, in my opinion. And to do that right there, and definitely Jaime's selfish. But I don't know. I'm conflicted with Jaime because I started liking Jaime when he went back and saved Brienne from the bear pit. I thought that was very noble of him. But I agree, he is selfish, and he's just a, a great character. He's definitely that's the definition of great. I hate when people say that all characters are great because no, the Mountain's not great and Ramsay's not great. Those guys are evil. But Jaime, he's definitely great.
Yeah,
and I think some of the people in this chat need to look up Webster's dictionary what selfish actually means in the dictionary. Just look at it. Self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ultimately, with Jaime, obviously, I think we are going to see what you want to see Jaime is. I mean, that cord's going to get cut with Cersei, and then hopefully he can at least redeem himself a little bit to you. But
when he won over, as you said, is when he burns down the paper, Cersei's paper, and in the last chapter that he had, when he left with Brienne, and I'm like, okay, now you're winning me over. This I like. This I like.
But and ultimately, I think that I think kind of part of Jaime's character is like nihilism versus like the conflict of nihilism versus being put in a position where you can't be nihilistic. That's kind of how I view Jaime, because like he wants to be nihilistic, but he can't because he's in such an important position. He's from such an important family, and that's sort of the conflict. I think that's part of his character, also in terms of along with all the other stuff.
Makes sense.
All right, I think we've gotten a little deep into the woods here. We should probably, let's try to talk a little more about the actual chapter. And speaking of something that I think a lot of people might consider, I don't know if it's noble on his part, but at least it's a good act. You have Sybell Westerling, who is from House Spicer, who brings in Jeyne Westerling so she can meet the King Slayer, and Jaime's kind of like, oh, wait, hold on. This is what Robb gave up his entire, future for, like, which was kind of a messed up thought. He's like, oh man, she's not even all that pretty, and Jeyne Westerling doesn't want to give up her crown. Like, she doesn't want to give up the crown that Robb gave her. She might be pregnant. They're not exactly sure yet. And Jaime's thinking to himself, like, hey, you know what? Even more than the Blackfish being out there, if Jeyne Westerling is pregnant, and especially if other Northern Lords find out, and even River Lords find out, that's going to be a big problem. We need to get her out of here as soon as possible. And if she does have a kid, she's going to be drinking some moon tea, or we're going to have to kill her ass. And, because of the fact that Jeyne is so kind of defiant against the orders of her mother lays down that pimp hand, and Jeyne was like, hey, guys, not in here, right? Jeyne, listen, you get out of here, go freshen up or something. Me and your ma are gonna have a little powwow here. So, apparently, with the whole thing with the Red Wedding, yes, the Westerlings were informed of this, with the exception of Reynold Westerling, and he, pretty much almost got his ass killed, or probably got killed. I don't know. We're still trying to find out whether or not the Knight of Sea Cells is alive or not. But when you have when you have this whole thing where Jaime brings up his cousin Joy marrying Reynold Westerling, if he happens to still be alive, Sybil Westerling is like, yo, you want a Westerling to marry a bastard? And then after this is where we get what is actually James's favorite line of the chapter. And James, you go ahead and take this one away.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite line of the chapter. The passage goes like, "Is his natural daughter?" Lady Sybell looked as if she had swallowed a lemon. "You want a Westerling to wed a bastard? No more than I want Joy to marry the son of some scheming turncoat bitch. She deserves better." And that's part of Jaime's, like he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't care what he's gonna say. I mean, and what he said was perfectly valid in my opinion. Like I said with Emmon Frey, George does a great job of writing detestable characters, and Lady Sybell here is one of them, especially since it's obviously she's a terrible person, terrible mother, and I think it was kind of inferred here that she's been giving her own daughter moon tea to force, a baby. So yeah, I don't have anything nice to say about Lady Sybell, and I'm glad Jaime said those words for me.
Yeah, right. And she, we learned something from. It wasn't we didn't learn it just from Sons of the Dragon, but also I think it was also in the World of Ice and Fire. But we learned that a Westerling was a bride for Maegor, and yeah, so you can kind of see where some of her. Yeah, Jeyne Westerling. Yeah, you can see where that pride comes from a little bit, anyway. So, but I'm so glad Jaime knocked her down a peg, because she's just. I figured there's got to be, if we think hard enough, we could find a worse mother in the story, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. She sends her son. One of her sons gets killed, and her daughter's going to hate her forever for one of the most justifiable reasons you can imagine. And for what? What are they actually going to get out of this? It doesn't seem like they're going to get what they wanted. So, yeah, big fail.
And another crazy thing about it is, like, her husband, obviously he had to know about it at some point, but, it's kind of inferred that he wasn't really in on the plan. It was, he might have found out afterwards, like, hey, look, I brokered a deal with Tywin so that we don't all get killed. So you just need to be easy when the Lannisters show up after the deed is done. We hand everything over to them, and they'll help us to not be slaughtered by the rest of the Westermen and whoever else is around. So it's just funny to see how you have people who are trying to scheme their way to the top by any means necessary, and Jaime is thinking about how much of a schemer he is, and he's like, look, you know what? I'll be glad when she's gone tomorrow. But LT, your thoughts on this part of the chapter?
I was absolutely repulsed when I first read this, and she says, "I made sure she's not going to get." Oh, I was cringing my teeth when I first read that. But I hope, I absolutely hope that in the prologue of Winds of Winter, if it is Jaime's point of view or not, I hope it's her point of view, so she could catch an arrow, when there's this conflict, when there's rescue mission that I think is going to happen. But anyways, also. One thing that surprises me, you notice that people in the books have called Stannis a pretender. They've called Renly a pretender. You never hear them ever call Robb a pretender or false king. They respect him. Like Jaime says, if she were to have a baby, that would be the most dangerous thing. It's like, I don't know, being a Robb Stark fan, it just makes me happy that they never call him false king. They respect that he had a kingdom. His kingdom was fallen. But I hope, and I know it's probably 1% chance, but I hope this isn't really Jeyne. I hope I love the theory that it's a double. I hope. I know it's a 1% chance. I hope this is a double, and I hope this is all some kind of jape with Sybil Westerling and this fake Jeyne. I'm hoping. I know Jerry probably hates that, and I said 1%, but I'm hoping that's the case.
Let's get to me next then, because yeah, as disgusting as Sybil was, and as great as Jaime, was with the word, just not giving a fuck, and that's why Jaime became my favorite character, right away, like Clash of Kings, was because of just his defiant, don't give a fuck, I'll say what's on my mind thing. But what really caught my eye the first time reading this was the discrepancy in Jeyne Westerling, and I was a big believer in that. Westerly was with Blackfish, off, probably pregnant, and well, since it was on his latest podcast, I'll let Aziz go for why I got to take these glasses off.
Yeah, the George pointed out himself in an interview that the Westerling hips thing is a straight up mistake, not not a conspiracy theory. He just messed up. He just got the description wrong. He just misremembered how he wrote Jeyne's hips and then wrote them differently. So it was an inadvertent mistake. It was an actual mistake. So it shouldn't. It's probably like maybe he'll spin it and be like, "Well, I made this mistake. I'll run with it." So that's where the 1% comes in. I think there's still a chance he decides to change his plan because he made this mistake. But probably he's just going to be like, "Yeah, that was a mistake," and just roll with it, move on, and go the way he was planning on going, which is that she's not pregnant.
Well, I got hope until wins the winner, but also regardless though, if like I think there's going to be some kind of rescue mission when the Lannister 200 Lannister troops and Jeyne and her mom and everybody's there, and I hope there's a rescue mission, and I hope Sybell catches an arrow in the thing, and then they save Jeyne.
I'm down with that. I have a new theory actually because of this episode that we're doing today. When I reread the chapter, I had a new idea, and I think are we safe to mention the little bit we know about the prologue chapter in TWOW?
Yeah.
Okay, so as we know, Jeyne is going to be in the prologue chapter. She's probably not the POV, but she's going to be in it, which means we're going to get a POV from someone in that group that's heading to Casterly Rock. It could be Ser Forley Prester, who's the guy Jaime puts in charge of that group on his end. But I think I've got a new idea on who it will be. White Smile Watt. That's one of the singers that's there with. He's not part of the Brotherhood as far as we know. Tom mentions that. Tom O'Sevens mentions that White Smile Watt goes with Ser Forley Prester. And so he's a perfect POV because he's a musician. So that the Brotherhood, if they attack this convoy, they're not gonna care about the singer. So he's the perfect observer because he's not gonna fight. He's not gonna get killed probably unless it's by accident. And he doesn't have a stake in all this, right? He's just a singer, so he's kind of a perfect impartial observer. There's obviously a lot of possibilities. It could be Blackfish himself. It could be some maester because that's sort of a pattern we've seen with the prologues. We have character, northern character maester, etc. And then so it could. So that's my new pick. I hadn't considered that before. White Smile Watt. You heard it here first.
Wouldn't you? I'll say, wouldn't you think though that the prologue would die, considering that it's been a certain, it's been a recurring theme that the prologue and epilogue die. So maybe it would be.
Maybe the wolves tear them up. Because the wolves could be part of this.
Right. It could be inadvertent. That's the reason why I don't want it to be Jeyne Westerling because maybe he could, he could always change it up. But so far as I remember anyway, all prologues and epilogues have died. So hopefully it's someone else than Jeyne Westerling.
I think that what George might do though is, and there's no reason for me to guess that it's this one time is when it's going to happen. But I think George is setting us up for one of these prologue characters, epilogue characters, to not die because they've all died, and that would be a cool twist because we're just so expecting it. And be like, nope, this one's going to live. I don't know what it'll be this time. It could be it could be Dream of Spring. It could be a little much later, but I feel like he's going to do that once. He's going to throw us a curveball and the POV character in the prologue won't die.
I forgot who it was, but they said it was somebody who was there when George said it or something, said that he was smiling when he said it. So it could mean something. I don't know. But one thing I forgot to mention, when Jaime, I felt my first read of Feast for Crows, when Jaime mentions, how dangerous an heir would be for Robb, I just felt like that was a point to it. I think she's pregnant, dude. I really do. I think this Moon Team shit is bullshit. And you know what? There's miracles in real life, too. My mom, she got fixed before and had my sister, and she always called my sister her miracle baby. So I'm just saying it could be maybe the Moon Team didn't work. Maybe it didn't work.
Well, what is the percentage of Moon Tea? I mean, there's always a chance. I mean, I doubt Westeros is the place where they got the 100% contraception. We don't even have that in real life. So
of course, definitely, yeah, I love that.
I am gonna butt in because I've got probably a very, very unpopular opinion, and it's that I don't want Jeyne Westerling to be pregnant.
I don't either. I don't want her to either.
I hate the idea of a Stark heir that comes from that disgusting plot from Tywin Lannister and Sybell, because in a way, I just don't want her to get anything out of this disaster. I want all of her plans to fail because she is a vile, vile, horrid woman. And if eventually she ends up being pregnant and there is an heir and that heir has potential to do anything, then at least she has one victory, even if it's one that she didn't want. And I don't want that. I want everything to be a failure. And I just, no, I want it to be one of the other siblings. There's still a lot of Starks alive, even if people don't know. You know, Bran is alive, Rickon is alive, Arya's alive, Sansa's alive. And I want one of them eventually to inherit, to marry another Northerner, because we've already seen that the wildlings and the old men have different blood and have different connection to the trees and everything. And I want them to, you know, not marry another Southerner and going back more to the Northerner roots and just no. I mean, you know, I'm sorry for Jeyne Westerling. Was really sorry for Jeyne Westerling, but she didn't have. To be fair, we don't have a POV of Robb, which is one of the things that always kind of bothered me. I wanted a Robb POV, you know, and I wanted to see more inside his head. We don't really know exactly what happened that night, but she didn't have to sleep with him.
Well,
she didn't.
I'll tell you what would have been inside Robb's head. It would have been a lot of 2 + 3 equals cow and stuff like
ultimately, that. Ultimately, well, George did say that he regretted not having Robb as POV. But I mean, ultimately, I think narratively, I don't think Jeyne's pregnant. I don't think it makes, you know, for the narrative, I don't think it makes the most sense. I think Robb's will is going to come into play with Jon. I don't know how close the TV show is what's going to happen, but I mean, ultimately, we see that someone else becomes king of the North, and I think narratively that something else is going to happen. Like, I just don't think it makes sense for them to go with that plot line.
And even if Jeyne is pregnant, think about it like this: the baby's going to be born, right? So by the end of winter, the baby will probably be 2 or 3, maybe 1, I don't know. And then by the end of A Dream of Spring, the baby's 5 or 6. So yeah, it makes sense that baby's not going to inherit because the baby would be like somebody, Lady Sansa or somebody would be, or Jon would be protector of Winterfell, you know.
Could be setting like up a side story sequel, though.
His reason. Because we know Jon's not going to be king. Come on, Jon's not going to be king.
There's also the idea that, you know, what Jaime says in this chapter, he says that they're going to marry Jeyne off again, but not right away, because they can't have any question that children that come from her are Robb's. That they have to wait long enough so that there's no question of that. So like you said here, yeah, like take the reverse of that. What if she does have a kid, and then they're like, well, how do you prove that's Robb's? Because if it's just a little bit of extra time. So I agree, it's kind of it's like, as far as plot, it's kind of there's a lot of problems with proceeding down that road. Baby comes
out red auburn hair, we know that's Robb's baby.
That's true. If it looks like Robb, then there's probably not much of a problem. Like if it's Gendry who looks like Robert, there's, you know, that's part of how that might work out, just because he has the look. But
do any Lannisters have any red hair from the girl from Duncan, like from, you know, the red? What was her name? The red
Rohan Weber. Yeah, not that we know of, because she's Tywin's grandmother, and every Lannister we know of has gold or yellow hair.
So her great red hair just died out in there. So
apparently, and her freckles too.
All right, so are we ready to move along to the next part of the chapter?
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So, the next day, Jaime, you know, is saying, look, you know, to Ser Forley Prester, tell him, look, you got to keep Edmure under guard because you got the Brotherhood Without Banners who's out there with Beric Dondarrion, and also, look, the Blackfish is out there, who knows? And also, you have this Lady Stoneheart. So, obviously, Jaime has no idea that Beric Dondarrion is already dead, since he's mentioning him and Lady Stoneheart basically in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because, you know, when they're talking about, look, we got to capture Beric Dondarrion and kill him, he's like, no. We need him to be alive and take him back to King's Landing, and he needs to die in front of everybody, or else he'll never die. That was absolutely hilarious. That, you know, that they're thinking to themselves like, hey, this whole thing with Beric Dondarrion, especially, we keep on hearing about him dying, but everyone keeps on saying that they're seeing him and he can't be dead. But there's so many people who are absolutely certain that they killed him.
Yeah, it's so funny. They're like, they can't go with what we know to be the truth. Like, no, he just keeps coming back to life. They're like, they can't suggest that. Like, finally, it's like, can't be.
Well, there was
people keeps coming back to life.
I think there was people in the Brotherhood that were like, wow, that wouldn't believe that he was coming. They were watching it. And
That's true. Lemoncloak's like, Thoros is the best healer, and they're like, healer, huh? Yeah, all right, buddy.
You saw him get hanged. He's like, yeah, he cut himself right at the last minute.
He took a knife through the eye hole. Like,
I love it. He's going to be a legend forever because, as we already know, he's already dead, which means they can't execute him publicly, which means he's going to be a legend forever. I love that. When I read
in the previous Jaime chapters, I think they mentioned, though, that they haven't seen Beric in a while. It's been this cloak girl and the Hound that's been coming at them, which we all know is Lemoncloak wearing the Hound's helmet.
Yeah.
And is it this chapter? I can't remember, last chapter or one of them where Jaime mentions the wolves attacking.
No,
this
last, I don't know. It was one of them. I read two.
There's definitely it's definitely mentioned in the World of Ice and Fire. I believe it's the World of Ice. It's one of the extended material where they mention, not only do they mention an attack of wolves like commanded by the children, but they mention where they come from, which is beneath the Hollow Hill, which is where the Brotherhood's base is. So that's like a really strong tie-in. So here we are thinking, will it be the Brotherhood or the wolves that attack this party? And I guess there's a tiny chance it's both.
Because you know what I was thinking? Maybe the Brotherhood are like hiding in the woods or something, right? And then all of a sudden the wolves attack, and then they're like, "There's opportunity, let's go."
These wolves are helping us. Like, what the hell?
It's gonna be like Anchorman. Blackfish is gonna have a crew. The Brotherhood's gonna have a crew. The wolves are gonna have a crew, and then there's gonna be the Lannister crew, and they're all just gonna have a showdown. It'll be horses and a man on fire and all that.
That'd be fun, but I really like the moment in which Jaime starts thinking, because they do mention that they're led by a giant wolf, and he remembers Nymeria, not by name, but he's like, would that be the wolf that bit Joffrey? And I'm like, oh yeah,
wow,
that's her.
That's exactly who it is, Jaime. That's about as close, other than like Kevin's Feast for Crow or chapter, Dance Dragon chapter, where Varys basically just like spills the beans kind of oddly. That's about as close as George ever gets to exposition. He's like, Jaime thinks of something that's kind of blatant, You're like, wait a second, he's just randomly thinking of that wolf, huh? Cool. So yeah, it's just like, it stands out like a sore thumb. It's like, yep, that's clearly what he's talking about.
It's kind of weird because, what's his name got killed on his way back? Ryman.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, how did they find out? I mean, it was Tom. Like, let me make sure I'm not wrong. It was Tom's 7 strings that let everyone know, right, where he is in the ambush.
When Tom shows up, or when Tom starts talking to Jaime, first thing Jaime says to him is, You came here with Ryman, didn't you? And he's like, yeah, I was only with him for a week, though. He downplays. He's like, yeah, for a fortnight. I didn't have anything to do with that,
So one thing I just thought about is when Jaime leaves with Brienne, that can mess up the morale of the troops, too. They might be having bad morale, but Jaime's not with them. But regardless, because they tell Cersei later, she's like, Jaime went off with some woman, so maybe that could mess up the morale of the Lannister troops. Their general's gone, and maybe the friction between them, hopefully.
Yeah, and and who's left behind is not, no one wants to, work for Emmon Frey, right? Garrison. That won't be the most loyal garrison we've ever seen, I'm imagining.
Well, he sends his best men to take, Edmure and Jeyne to Casterly Rock. So
that's true.
You're pretty much.
Is Payne with them, or is he with Jaime? Or no, he's not.
Payne's still with Jaime. Yeah, he's still with Jaime. Isn't that funny, by the way? There's so many things pointing to this party being ambushed. We got the wolves, we got the Brotherhood, we got Blackfish, we got Stoneheart, we got Freys being hanged rather. Sorry, Stannis. And we've got Jaime just saying, take 100 men. No. Take 200. No, take 400. I mean, it's just like everything is pointing to something is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I definitely wanted to touch on on the possibility of a Frey civil war, because once the word has reached that Ryman and his entire party are killed, everyone's pointing fingers and they're like, it must have been Black Walder, it must have been this one, it must have been that one. And so they're like, oh, well, how do you know? Oh, he's wanted to be Lord of the Twins for years and this, that, and the third. So, we're seeing the possible makings of a Frey civil war, and there are a lot of people who are not only speculating this but wanting it. And two of those people, you see them shaking their head yes, and one of them rubbing her hands. So,
I don't think we'll see. I don't think it'll be able to get to that. I think they'll get wiped out before they even get to the point. Like, they'll start distrusting each other and kind of like they'll split the party. Never split the party, and they'll all get wiped out by the Brotherhood before they even. Well, at least the ones that deserve it.
And I think Walder has to see a lot of it happen. I think Walder has to see his family collapse under him, because that's the one thing. That's like his only redeeming quality. Walder Frey is that he's generally good to his family, which doesn't count for much considering how awful he is. But that's going to be painful for him when he sees the one thing that he kind of did. Yeah. It's going to fall apart.
I mean, even if they split the party and get killed, that'll be painful for him.
He has to be the last one to die. He has to see his entire family crumble. He has to see his family lose everything. He has to see him losing the castle, the lands, the power, everything. Only when he's lost everything, then he can die.
He has to see that his own son. He has to find out that he has to find out that his own son cuckolded him too. That Black Walder is sleeping with his own wives.
I'll tell you why that's not going to happen. Think of Tywin's death and how much more he should have seen before he died, but he didn't.
Fair point.
Well,
yeah, fair point.
I think possibly that I know y'all hate this, Jerry, but I think possibly George told Dan and Dave how Walter's going to die, and Arya killed him. But I always envisioned, before that happened in the show, Walter sitting by the fire, probably looking at it, thinking about how he lost so many people. Maybe all his family, a lot of them die, and then Arya does kill him by the fire. That'd be great. I would love it.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I think she'll kill him, but she won't kill all of them like that. Like, it won't be so neat, clean, and smooth, and just one fell swoop like that.
Well,
yeah,
I definitely
die of old age.
Things there.
Well, I definitely think that. I definitely think that he needs to, like, if we're gonna have any, Walter getting his comeuppance, it has to be in that manner, because he's already won. He's old as shit. He's had a bunch of wives, had a bunch of children. He got his victory over the Starks in that regard. So he's already won. If he died right now, he already won. So it does need to be something like that. But yeah, I could see George being like, yeah, you guys want your Walder Frey comeuppance here? He's gonna die in his sleep with nothing wrong, with a woman by his side. I could see that happening too. But
what should happen is never what happens. It's usually more what's more logical to happen. Like,
yeah. Well, I was gonna say that I do think that what we see here is I think that it's petty. The dynamics of the Frey, the way that their family operates. It's like petty. They have this automatic suspicion of each other, and to me it's weak. I think it's a weak family. So that's what I think about the phrase.
Well, you got to play Lord of the Crossing.
Mayhaps.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? Look, I thought that this whole thing was definitely a setup for a war. I mean, and think about it, right? When you think about Little Walder and Big Walder, these guys are kids, and yet they're keeping the line of succession in their heads. And it's like, yeah, we know that we're related, but it's like, yeah, you're a different kind of Frey than I am, based off of who your father was and who his mother was and all that stuff. So it's a very interesting family dynamic just to see how all of these different factions play off against each other. And it's like, even though they know their family, it's like, yeah, but your grandmother's from House Crakehall, and yours is from this family, and yours is from that family. And it's just interesting to see, like, now that this is coming up and they're blaming each other, and it's probably the Brotherhood without banners doing. I want to see how this all plays out, especially in the Winds of Winter when you have some of them who are in the north. Because remember, you got the Freys who are actually in the north right now with the Boltons and the Manderleys, and then there's the other ones who are still in the Riverlands, and a couple who are now going to be traveling to the Westerlands. So you got Freys all over the place.
20,000.
There's a ton of Freys, so they're all over the fucking place.
Right.
Well, the ones with the Manderleys, I want to say it's 20,000, right? Am I wrong?
2,000.
Oh, that's it? Wow.
Yeah.
They got a big army. Why does they only give them 2,000? They're trying to take out. Yeah. No wonder they're going to probably lose a battle of ice.
Well, there's 2,000 are to protect their, the one branch of the family. It's the Crakehall branch of the Frey family. You got what's his face, the Hostine, who is closer kin to Walda, Fat Walda.
Yeah.
And that's like because you got the different the Freys kind of break down in clans within the Frey grouping under who their mother was. You know?
Basically it's all because of how Walder married, so every one of his wives who had sons, their allegiance is to House Frey, but their allegiance is also to the house that the mother came from as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of those houses are rival houses, that don't necessarily get along. It's just like, all right, well, they wanted a chance to at possibly gaining the twins, because everyone knows the twins is a very lucrative place to make money, because anytime someone wants to travel to different parts of Westeros outside of their normal realm, they might have to go there just to cross the Trident. If you have an army, that's what you have to do. But if it's just a small group of people, they can catch a ferry. But an army has to cross the twins.
Yeah, like you said, man, they're the Frey. What's his face? Cleos Frey, Emmon's son, who was basically a Lannister. He fought. He was with Jaime and Brienne, and not with Robb. So the Frey, like you said, like all these different. Most of the Freys fought for Robb. But even at the start, not all of them did. Yeah, because there's just so damn many of them with different allegiances.
Right.
And they've only been around like 600 years as a family. So like they're not nearly as old as some of these other families. Yet they're not top tier, but they're probably second tier as far as how powerful they are. Not for long, I'm thinking, but.
To be fair, are they the only family that's actually like did any economic progress in Westeros like in the last 600 years? Everyone else is pretty static.
It's true. They've really just gained, we hear that they started with a wooden castle, just a wooden bridge and just like two little wooden forts, and now they're stone and really well defended. And whenever Robb's army arrives there, and Great John just starts cursing, and Roose Bolton's like, yeah, we cannot take that, because they hadn't really seen it before. They're like, yeah, that's a formidable castle. And
talking about Roose Bolton, do you mention the kid of Roose Bolton and Walder Frey, like the mixture of Frey genes with Bolton genes? Like, come on, some of the Freys are not like so bad, but that's because who their mothers were, like their non-Frey relatives. But if you mix Frey blood, like bad Frey blood, and Bolton blood, it's like, like what the hell will come out of there?
Wait, but
watch the most noble kid ever.
Fat Walder,
if it goes like the TV show, that kid's gonna be eaten by a dog anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, look, Fat Walder isn't necessarily bad though. I mean, like, we don't know that Fat Walder is bad.
That's true.
We don't know much about her at all, other than the fact that they call her Fat Walder and she's married to.
She seemed pretty simple-minded.
Roose Bolton.
So.
She seemed like a sweetie pie.
She was a little She was a little snooty at that one point. Remember, she's like, "Oh, my poor sister. She's already this old, and everyone thought, my Lord of Bolton was going to pick her because she's pretty, but he picked me because of the weight in silver. But that's it. That's like the only glimpse of her personality we get.
She's a fat dumb bitch.
Wait.
Wow.
What do you really feel? How do you really feel about that? I'm tired of these half measure opinions. Like I don't know, this neutral opinion. I don't know what to do with that.
Now, all right, so there's other parts to this whole thing as well, because this is one of the only other times that we get mention of the Brotherhood without ban. Well, not necessarily Brotherhood without banners, but Lady Stoneheart. Like we've heard drips and drabs, but this, like, other than her hanging the phrase at the end of Storm of Swords, we haven't heard much activity about the Brotherhood without banners, and we still have yet to see her outside of when the Freys first meet up with her, and then when Brienne meets up with her. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see, obviously what happens with Jaime in the next book, but also if there happen to be any other people that she runs into in between, because again, you have this Frey party who is going from the Riverlands to Casterly Rock, and yeah, it's going to be a pretty big party that's traveling with Edmure. But are they going to be set upon? It's kind of seeming that way. But then the other thing you have is the question about the fate of Sir Reynold Westerling, the Knight of Seashells. Now, this one, is pretty interesting because it's kind of all indications point to him being dead. But, when they're asked about, did you find a body? You're like, look, all bodies pretty much look the same after a couple of days. And the funny thing is, Jaime says, yeah, well, so does a hangman. And I'm wondering if that was kind of a veiled threat. Like, look, if you cross me, I'm going to hang you. Because Jaime doesn't like these Freys either. So it was pretty interesting to see how he kind of just takes to, saying, like, kind of openly threatening to hang this guy. And I don't even know if he's smart enough to realize the threat that was coming from Jaime about this whole situation, because apparently they weren't even supposed to kill Reynold anyway, but Reynold didn't know about the Red Wedding plot at all, so he was kind of reacting. He was reacting the way that he was supposed to. He was Robb Squire. But when they tried to kill Grey Wind, like, hey, what the hell are you doing? He lets the wolf out. So, Tinker, your thoughts on this part, and just kind of do you think that the Knight of Seashells is dead?
I think so, yes. I think he's dead. I think from what we heard, it was pretty clear that he was dead. And I think he also needs to be dead because, Sybell, which I hate, she's a vile person, and I think, as Accede said, I think we haven't heard any other mother that is worse than her. Mm-hmm. And she is also like she like power hungry. How did Jaime call her, like a upstarter? I don't know. He called her something, someone trying to climb her way up, and there are consequences to that kind of stuff. And I think it's a good I think she kind of deserves. Like, I'm sorry for her kids, because really having a mother like that. Like, seriously, we've only seen 2 kids, but all of her kids are screwed with a mother like that. And she got her son killed. She knew playing that double game could really, because when there's battles, there's wars, there's, when you play anything can happen. There might be plans, but, you can't control everything. You never know what's gonna happen. And she played dice, and she lost one of her kids. And I think she kind of deserves that loss, that kind of loss. And it's just, I think he's dead.
I think arguably she lost both her kids. I mean, Jane's never gonna have regard for her again. Like, she's alive, but their relationship is done. Yeah.
And all of her other kids, they'll know what she did, and they know that that they lost a brother because of her. The fact and that she's willing to play dice with their lives. None of her other kids are gonna trust her ever again.
You know, if the whole thing we were talking about doesn't happen, the attack, you know, maybe when the White Walkers push south, she'll die from a White Walker.
Oh.
Because you know that's what my
well,
thing.
knowing
That's
her,
what I said. Oh, go ahead.
Knowing her, she tried to become the new Night Queen. She's like,
right.
I'm hoping
she'll turn into Craster. She'll be like sacrificing kids.
Can you imagine Sybell facing Lady Stoneheart? That would be sweet.
I'd bet on Stoneheart.
Hopefully, every single time.
I just can't wait to see Stoneheart. Well, not see her face, but like when I'm reading it, I think that Jaime's gonna. I know this is off topic, but I think Brienne's gonna sacrifice herself for Jaime, and then she's gonna have to let him go, and I think that's gonna be epic.
I kind of feel that way too. I have a related question for you guys relating to Stoneheart. Now we talk about the possibility of Blackfish hooking up with the Brotherhood, but on a personal level, how is he going to react to finding his niece all undead and creepy like that?
I think it's going to break his heart.
Yeah,
I don't
because that's who he cared about the most was the girl, like his nieces.
He really
it seems
cared
like
a lot about
yeah.
Catelyn. He really loved her, and knowing that the Freys killed her was already hard for her to see the indignity that is going to be that she's a walking corpse, that barely nothing of her is left, that she's just this ghost of who she used to be, and seeing physically, because he never actually got to see the massacre. You know, he kind of only heard about it, and there's a difference between knowing something happened and seeing it with his own eyes.
Yeah.
And how she looks with the scars, it looks so gruesome. The shadow, like, I don't think anyone deserves to see someone that they love, a family member that they love, in that state. You know, if she could at least have her mind intact, her soul intact, just the body, it would be painful. But she's not. She's just a shadow of who she was. And I feel really sorry for him if he actually gets. I'm hoping that Blackfish never interacts with Lady Stoneheart, because I really like the Blackfish and I think it's going to break his heart.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I don't think that they're going to actually meet up. I think that when it comes to a lot of the older characters and some of the characters from like I guess what would be the grandparent generation of this story, I think a lot of them aren't going to interact with any kind of magic whatsoever. You know, I think that this is kind of supposed to be like the transition where you have people who have never encountered magic, the people who are encountering magic, and then the people who are born into magic. And I just think that Blackfish is going to be one of those characters who never actually interacts with anything that is truly supernatural.
I don't see him interacting with magic. To me, he's like one of those older people, you know, that are very practical, very realist, down to ground, and I can just imagine him seeing like these crazy magic and like, no, this isn't okay with me. This is not my world.
I think he actually will, and how he will react. Well, I'm just gonna say this: have you ever read Pet Sematary?
You know, what's funny is I thought I was going to be the only person who thought that they're going to have interaction. You know, I actually think, because there is mention of, you know, some of the Brotherhood saying that Stoneheart's, you know, doing things her own way, not like Beric. So what if Blackfish could, you know, speak reason to her? You know what I'm saying? Maybe she'll listen to him. I mean, she's not listening.
No. I don't think that's going to happen, LT. I think it's more like Pet Sematary, where the guy goes crazy and he's going to follow. I think Blackfish at that point might lose some of his strategicness of him, and he might just become a raging, gotta kill.
Oh, so he'll be like so enraged when he sees her by what happened to her and hurt, like Tinker said, heartbroken, and he'll be like, let's kill them all, right?
I don't know if it'll be that much more. I mean, he's already heartbroken over that.
Yeah.
And I think this will be like kind of like
Push
Pet
him over
Cemetery. He's like, well, I got him back. They're not the same, but I got him back, and now
I honestly think that he would kill her, not in the sense of like murder, but to like mercy, like because
something
it's
something
it's
else to consider is that he doesn't know that Lysa's dead yet either.
Yeah,
which is like another heartbreaker for him, even though he saw that Lysa had gone off the rails and he was kind of just disgusted with her behavior. He still was really protective of her. I mean, that's basically why he went to the Vale in the first place, to be the man of the gate.
I wouldn't want to live like Lady Stoneheart, so I think that he would see it as mercy, as a way of just ending her pain, because she is also in pain.
Now, you know what?
She doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question I have to kind of. Here's a question I have to kind of piggyback off this whole thing. If he did interact with Lady Stoneheart, who would he be more pissed off at? The Brotherhood without banners or the Freys?
Still the Freys, I would think. And they're trying to kill Frey. That's why I think it might work out. Even if he's really creeped out and horrified, it's still, well, they're killing Freys, and that's what I want to do. So,
I mean, but how would you,
that's why
how
it's kind
would
of hard
you feel,
to figure,
I mean, but how would you feel if you had a family member who had gotten brought back and was in such a disfigured state, and it's like, yeah, we're using
no idea.
This person is our leader. It's like, how in the world can they possibly be your leader? They're not a whole human.
It's really hard to guess at. That's why I'm saying, you could really see why it would go fairly smoothly, and you could really see why he would just freak out, or somewhere in between.
None of you guys have seen. You're missing your what do you call it? Your Pet Cemeteries, your Walking Dead, all these. You've seen characters like this go crazy. Remember the governor with this kid when she turned into a zombie. He would not let her die. He kept her around because he couldn't bear to see her go, even though she was dead.
I've never been a fan of zombies at all, so no.
Well, then why are you? See, don't argue with me about that.
I personally think that if somebody could tell her that Bran's alive, well, they can't. There's no proof that Bran's alive, but could tell her that Sansa's. No, she knew Sansa was alive. Yeah, if she could find out that Bran and Rickon were alive somehow, her soul could rest. Because she thought they were all dead. I mean, everybody except Sansa, right? She didn't know. Wait, did she know? She knew Sansa was alive, right, when she died?
Yeah, she knows Sansa was alive.
But she thought everybody was dead, and she was in so much pain when she died. If somebody could tell her that her kids are alive, I think her soul could rest. But I think until then, she's going to be a vengeful spirit.
Yeah, she thinks that all of them are dead and only one of them is dead. So yeah, that could help a lot.
I don't think there's enough of her really back to actually talk some sense into her. What she really feels is Robb's death, because it's a death that she actually witnessed. I think she's stuck in that last moments of her death, that horrible, horrible, horrible scene, and that's what she's in her pain of the murder of her firstborn, because she does mention that Bran is special to her, but Robb is also special. He was her first son, the first child that she had, and she witnessed his death. And I don't think that I think the only thing that's going to put her to mercy is death.
And what's messed up is Roose Bolton implicated Jaime in all of this, and he had nothing to do with it, so she hates Jaime probably more than anybody.
That's true. And with the sword, Brienne's carrying, Oathkeeper around. Yeah, it didn't help. Now, that's another related question. What will Jaime think of? What will Jaime think of her when he meets her? Because he's obviously he probably has met her off screen already. We just haven't seen it yet. And what's that going to do? How's he going to react to that? And
I think he'll probably be frightened when he first sees her, because just imagine in the epilogue of Storm of Swords when they're saying her face, those eyes, they're just, which Frey was it, Piper or whatever Frey that was just so terrified by her. I could see Jaime being a little frightened by that.
Yeah.
Face. I mean, I just thinking of it in my head, I get frightened. And then when I see the pictures of the actress looking like Lady Stoneheart, and then that picture, one of the best pictures is Lady Stoneheart, and she's holding Robb's crown, and that just, man, I think I'd be frightened.
That is something else. Yeah. And another question is, we talked about the possibility of her dying. Maybe that's her release. She gets to rest at last. Is she going to pass that the life force on to someone else again after
that's
that?
the one thing. That's the one thing that I mean. A lot of people don't like this, but I think it would be poetic if some. And I know she probably won't, but if she did make it to the wall and resurrect Jon, I think that would be very poetic.
And this is why I think Beric is still in the show, because they didn't use Stoneheart, but they still wanted this life force to pass on to somebody, so they have to keep it with Beric.
She was so mean to Jon. She was so mean in his whole life, and to sit there and rescue and save him and bring him back, I think that would be very poetic.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's probably not. But like I said, I think it would be very poetic.
Yeah, well, whatever for Catelyn.
Would make sense.
She's got the right name. Lady Stoneheart is the right name for her. Listen, anybody out there who doesn't know, I can't stand Catelyn Tully. I refuse to call her Stark. She ain't no Stark.
She caused so much trouble.
What's that again?
She just caused so much trouble, but we're getting off topic.
This is true. All right, so let's get to the final part of the chapter now, and maybe if we got any time left over, we'll.
One thing I wanted to ask y'all before we get to this final part is, what do y'all think about this Frey Lannister alliance? Do you think they seem to not like they're trying to push it, but then some, the Freys probably think like, well, these ingrate Lannisters, we turn the tides for them, whereas the Lannisters are like, well, you're just double crossing everybody. I'm wondering how that's going to shake out.
I mean, remember, this is
because right now the Freys can't do anything to the Lannisters. The Lannisters are in power, but we as readers know that the Lannisters are about to get hit by a big old storm called Aegon.
Yeah.
Well, the Freys, Aegon, whatever you want to call
the Freys, yeah. So will the Freys abandon the Lannisters at that point? Will they try to new king in town? Let's you
guys are ungrateful douches. I'm gonna get with this guy.
I'm gonna trust them ever. Like who would want an alliance with the Freys, especially if you're a second family?
I think it's not that you want an alliance with them. You don't want an alliance with them. You just want to not be at war with them,
Well, you want their soldiers, but you never want to have a wedding or a dinner with them.
I mean, I think you can...
But things in the north are also moving, so I think they're going to start losing people. The Brotherhood is also going to start killing them, so I don't think the Lannisters are going to be the only ones hit. I think they're also going to be start suffering... losses. And I think that's an alliance that, I'm not a Lannister fan either. I think that's also quite well known, except Tyrion. I love Tyrion, but the Lannisters at least have strength. They've gone to war, they battle, they scheme, but it's not the same. You wouldn't see Tywin Lannister actually doing these things. He kind of uses the phrase because they think of them as like disgusting, creepy, like just turn cloaks. They
let
just
them take the blame. Yeah.
Yeah, like take the blame because he's quite happy with someone else doing the dirty work, but they wouldn't do. They have strength. They have. We see others Lannisters that. Look that marriage, Emmon Frey, which is ridiculous and pathetic, and Lady Jenna. She's capable. She's capable. She's talented. She's strong. I think that's an alliance that must be hurting the Lannister. They're like, yeah, we need this. We need this alliance. We need this alliance, but it's gonna fall apart.
Well, I mean, I think you can. I think you can see it with sort of the apathy that Jaime has for the Freys. I mean, just kind of. I think it's one of those tenuous alliances that, as long as they're beneficial to the Lannisters, they'll try and play nice. And obviously, the Freys are going to need the Lannisters right now, so I think it's just kind of a tenuous. They need each other, and as soon as they don't, it wouldn't surprise me if they backstab each other. That's just how I view their alliance. It's not a strong alliance.
Yeah, it's totally out of circumstance, not out of like mutual respect or honor or anything like that. Yeah,
I think the respect has gotten even worse since then. Like it might have started out okay, but it's definitely deteriorated because they're just taking jabs at each other.
And the marriage ties aren't that strong, they're there, but, and they're supposed to get stronger. Like we said, there's supposed to be more marriages that happen. But what if stuff happens before those marriages actually take place or during those marriages? That's a big theory that the Red Wedding 2.0.
Lancel, pushing away, what is her name? Gatehouse Amy.
Yeah, true point. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, good call.
So that, and I'm saying also, Aegon's also in a position to where he needs people. So I mean, if the Freys are willing to jump over, he's not in a position where he can say no.
Yeah, he needs all the help he can get. If Westerosi houses are willing to support him, he's gonna be like, "Yep, come on." He's got no specific, there's nothing politically against him teaming up with just about anybody. Like none of them have done him specific insult or harm or whatever. So yeah, he's kind of wide open that way.
I don't think how the phrase like ever, especially if they betray also the Lannisters. Two big families, powerful families, they've had no problem betraying. No.
What you do? You're spit in the Frey's face. We all saw what happened to Robb when he did that.
But I mean, Aegon also wouldn't know like the specific machinations of what's happened recently with Frey and the Lannisters. I think he would take their help because he doesn't know. I mean, they know that the Freys may be douches, but he doesn't know that they don't know the specifics of what they've done.
But people, and it's popular knowledge what they've done. The Red Wedding is something that everyone knows. It's spread like wildfire. It wouldn't take him. Unless he has pretty competent people working for him. One of the most important things for a conquering monarch is to discover what's been going on in the countries that you're trying to conquer. If not, you already failed miserably. And the Red Wedding is widely known. Especially everything that has been going on with the Freys. He has to know.
And Aegon's got the best master. He's got Lord Varys. Lord Varys would tell him all that stuff because he knows. Lord Varys knows everything.
Yeah, what a tricky spider he is.
But they got soldiers, so you never. I mean, it can go in a million ways.
Yeah, I think I think we all agree that the Frey, pretty much every Frey that went north is gonna die.
Yeah.
I think we have
all the ones up north are crummy too.
They're all gonna get sunk into the ice, and it's gonna be.
I'm with you.
Or turned into pie.
Listen, hopefully no more Frey pies. I'm gonna say it like this. Reading the whole thing about the Frey pies and the fact that Wyman manually, had a couple of helpings of Frey pie. I'm like, yo, dude, you are
I love that.
Goddamn savage.
He had a couple from each pie. Yeah.
I mean, but but it was. Oh God, man! Like,
so gross.
We're gonna have to talk about that chapter at some point.
Come on, you don't think that Wyman manually probably took helpings of the? I don't think all the pies had Freys in it. Maybe there was a few that he.
No, there were 3. There were 3 pies and one for each Frey. I think was the implication.
Yeah, and he said
he ate 2 slices from each pie.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, man.
I love it. It was awesome.
Simon, you fat bastard!
Like,
you are. Oh
yeah, delicious revenge.
Of that chapter.
Forget about
maybe Frey pie tastes like bacon or something.
Listen, forget about too fat to sit a horse. Too disgusting to sit a horse is more like it, man.
Never has justified revenge been so disgusting. It's like, yes, but no. Yes.
It's like cheering for Hannibal Lecter.
Who knows? It might be delicious.
He had to eat from the pie. Get Roose to eat from the pie, right? Because Roose said, "I'm not." Roose basically wouldn't eat nothing unless he ate it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so...
Just like, all right, well, he's eating the hell out of that. I guess I can have a bite or two. And I guess Fat Walder had almost as much as he did. If I remember right.
Oh God! All right. Let's move on. Let's
talk more about cannibalism.
Oh God! All right. Look. All right. So look. Now we come to the final part of the chapter here, where Jaime now decides what he is going to do with the remaining Tully soldiers. Sorry about that. He decides what he's going to do with the remaining Tully soldiers. And it's like, look, a lot of them have sworn oaths that they will not take up arms against the Lannisters or the Freys after this. It's like, look, we're gonna let you leave in peace. Just give up your weapons. Go about living your lives however you can. Except for 3. 3 guys decide... Oh, no, sorry, not 3. 2. two guys decide that they are going to actually take the black. That is Sir Desmond Grell and Robin Ryger. And Jaime tells Raff the Sweetling, hey, take these guys to Maidenpool, make sure they get there safe, and then after that, they should be able to get to the wall without any problems. And after this is when he runs into Tom of Seven Strings. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy because we all know that Tom of Sevens is part of the Brotherhood Without Banners. But the funny thing about Tom of Sevens is that also Edmure Tully hates him. Edmure Tully hates Tom of Sevens because he wrote a song about him back in the day, basically about him not being able to perform his manly duties with a young lady, and somehow that that got around, and Tom of Sevens decided to write a song mocking him, calling him a floppy fish. So it was kind of funny to see this guy in a place where he probably shouldn't be, because even though Edmure is a captive, what is to stop Edmure from being like, yo, that dude right there, yeah, look, I know I'm a captive, but can you please kill him? He's a bigger asshole than anybody ever. They're like, oh, but why do you want to kill him? Listen, you don't need to know about that. Just know he's an asshole and he should die. So then we also get Jaime's dream, his dream of his mother, and it's pretty interesting because is this a dream or is it reality? Is it something that might happen in the future? Jaime talks about how in his dreams he always has two hands, but in this particular dream he only has one. And he's talking to his mother. His mother is like, hey, do you really know who your father was? Which, kind of has led people to speculate that his father might have actually been Aerys Targaryen. And it's just a, crazy thing to think about with that. And I'm pretty sure you guys on the panel will have a lot to say about Jaime's fever dream. But then the next day, you get the kicker. This is the thing that people have been waiting for a very long time. That is when he receives a letter from Cersei asking him to come back to King's Landing because she is going to be standing trial by the faith. And Jaime looks at the letter and is like, yeah, do me a favor, put this shit in the fire. I don't want to hear what Cersei's got to say whatsoever. So. Jerry, I'm going to let you start this one off. Your thoughts about the final part of this chapter.
Well, we already talked about the Tom of Seven Strings and, the Wyman and all that. So I'm just going to get to the fever dream. And I got to, give a shout out to our friend, Tony Teflon, because he did a video quite a few years ago about this. And that's really where he really broke down this fever dream and talked about how this really points to being, maybe Jaime and Cersei being the children of Aerys Targaryen, because, did you really know your father, or did you know him, all that stuff. So, yeah, I don't think it's true, but it is kind of weird. This dream, if it's true, this dream makes sense, but I really don't know what really to make of it. It's an interesting dream. It's obviously an important dream because he's missing his stump. Like he says, most of the time he's missing his hand. He just got the stump. Most of the time he has two hands. There's something in there. There's probably something in there, but I just don't know. I haven't been able to put together what quite yet, but it is pretty interesting. And yeah, finally, Jaime, done with that beat. Done with that beat. Like I said earlier, Jaime is not selfish. He does whatever he cares about. He does whatever. So hopefully, whoever the next girl is that he gets into, as someone with a good heart, and then you'll see Jaime do a lot of good things to make her happy.
Okay, all right. James, your thoughts on this one? Tinker, I know you got a rant coming. We're going to get to the Tinker rant. Don't worry.
Don't worry, it's not a rant, but let
Right.
James go.
Yeah. First off, I don't know if you guys talked about this, but since I was gone for a little bit, I'll bring it up. Can you guys hear me? I think I lagged out.
No, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. When he was talking with Sir Ilyn, and he was like, you know, how he was telling him all these things, these intimate things about Cersei and stuff, and I thought that it would be interesting to me if we got a Sir Ilyn POV of this chapter, of like the stuff, of the same stuff that Jaime's telling him, all the, you know, kind of things about kissing his sister and all this stuff. I just wanted it'd just be interesting to see his POV, you know, and Sir Ilyn thought ew or something like that. But anyway, I digress from that. In terms of the dream, you know, I'm not exactly sure what to make of it, because obviously the most important line in here was talking about how, you know, how you forgot your father truly. You know, he didn't like being laughed at. Obviously, Tywin didn't like being laughed at either, but either did the Mad King, I would imagine. So, you know, I think it's left to be ambiguous that, you know, and I think that the first dream that he had earlier at the stump of the werewood tree was a little more interesting than this one. But this one is interesting, especially since the whole hand dilemma. I don't know if I can necessarily decipher it completely. I mean, it was a rather small passage in this chapter, and then of course the end. I mean, yeah, who didn't love the fact that that was a great way to end this chapter? Just, you know, him throwing the letter in the fire. I think it's just a great way to end the chapter, and it is all what we wanted, and it's what we got, and hopefully we see further development of Jaime's character in that regard. But yeah. It was a great way to end the chapter.
One thing I want to ask, well, so snow is coming down, so what point is happening at?
I mean, well, you know, listen, if snow is in the Riverlands, but the Riverlands is a little further north than King's Landing is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would imagine that, you know, this may be couple of weeks to maybe a month before the prologue in the Dance with Dragons. I mean, it can't be too far off. It can't be like 6 months or a year or anything like that.
You gotta look it up chronologically, because it's when I don't know what it is with the tandem read, but it could be actually closer than you think to the prologue.
So
in that epilogue, I think you're talking about the epilogue, right? The epilogue, the dance epilogue with Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kevin gets the letter that says Jaime went off with Brienne. So that, yeah, you're right. It can't be, and it's not. It hasn't been snowing for very long at King's Landing at that point. So
that makes me
the White Raven shows up during that scene. Yeah.
That makes me wonder when the Sansa chapters in Winds of Winter are taken on. Because how much snow was around there? Because that's further north, and not only that, it's high, so there's going to be snow.
A pretty good amount. Remember, Sansa makes a snow castle and all.
Yeah,
so, you know, there's and that's in Storm, not even in Feast. So,
because the White Raven is announcing that winter has come, but winter came before the White Raven came.
Yeah, it was like officially winter according to the Citadel, which is kind of funky because the Citadel's like way in the south.
To me, my first reread, when I saw the snow, I was like, yeah, that's winter. I'll go ahead and go before Tinker. We'll save the Tinker rant for last.
Hold on one second, LT, before you go. This also makes me think that the river, or not the Vale, is going to have something big, because everyone is like Jaime mentioned it. Everyone's fucked. No one's been reserving the food. They've all been using it like crazy. The only one reserving food is Littlefinger in the whole realm, pretty much. Maybe Dorne as well.
And he's telling a few of the other Vale Lords to save their food too, while guys like Jan Royce and others like just do the normal stuff. So yeah, Littlefinger's kind of maneuver.
So they're going to have a huge position of power just because of food.
Yeah, it's true. He's prepared.
Food too, right?
Who?
House Tyrell's got the food too, right?
Yeah, they still have a lot of food. That's true. They haven't. I mean, that might change with their war with Fagon, with young Griff or whatever. But yeah, right now, as things stand at the very moment, yes, they still have a lot of food and resources.
I mean, the
Tinker, I love-
Lannisters are almost.
I don't think winter's gone into the Reach yet. I mean, it's probably about like any minute now that'll happen, but
Just another reason why I think the Lannisters are fucked and the Aegon's going to take them down.
Is Dorne safe from winter, or will winter come to Dorne too? I think it's safe from winter, right?
that's a tough question. I don't think it's totally safe from winter, but I doubt it gets like really harsh down there too. If it does, man, how far if we're like, whoa, like what does that say about the rest of Westeros?
Well,
Dorne
maybe
is
when
like,
the long night comes, when the White Walkers are coming, maybe that's when it will snow in Dorne.
yeah, man. So like all of humanity retreats into Dorne. That would be, man, jeez, all this and that's epic. That's epic.
And they wouldn't know how to clean off the damn roads.
That's
All right, LT. Your point real quick, and then we'll jump to Tinker, and then we'll end it off with the Z's.
All right.
No, I agree that like Jaime was done with Cersei with throwing the letter and the fire, but I do still think he loves her. I mean, I think that's all he cares about in the world. I mean, yeah, he's done with her at this point. He's mad at her. Man, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Tinker.
About the dream,
Oh
there's,
yeah, never mind. Sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I think there's a tendency in the fandom of Game of Thrones to read and reread and then theorize about every single little thing that he writes and come up with as many theories, and I've gotten a bit tired about that, and I think that yes, sometimes he puts a lot of clues, but I think sometimes it's not about, I don't believe the theory that they're the Mad King's children, and I think sometimes people read way too much into dreams and stuff, and dreams are also happen for other things, not for characters to get to know themselves or to overcome things. And so the way that I read this dream, it's just before he lets go of Cersei, and he always used to dream himself with two hands, because in a way he'd never accepted that he'd lost his hand, because he kind of thinks of himself less. But in a way, losing his hand, it made him more. He learned a bit of humility. He's not as all-powerful as he used to be. He's not as shiny as he used to be. It's awakened him a bit, and it's made him mature and advance. And the whole thing that, when his mother says, do you know who your sister is? Do you know who your father is? And I think that he never allowed himself to see neither his father or his sister as the people that they were, as cruel, as evil, as people that were not good people, and that he shouldn't follow blindly. So for me, I read this dream as him, him realizing who he's followed all of his life, and realizing that he has to kind of choose a different path, to wake up, to accept that he doesn't have his hand any longer, that he's not the shiny perfect knight that he used to be, that his sister is not the gallant beautiful woman that he was in love with, and that his father is gone, and that he was an evil bastard anyways. And I kind of read it that way, because then later on, he gets his Cersei's missive, and he throws it to the fire. He's accepted that he has to go his own way, or he has to at least start moving along and not keep being the little Lannister slave bitch that he's been all his life. And that's how I read it.
I want to say one thing, though. He probably says the smartest thing that any character has ever said in any of these books. He said that Cersei should have made Littlefinger the hand.
No way, because Littlefinger would have eventually seen them all dead and ended up in that bloody.
Littlefinger's the only one prepared. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I do think that it's great, because we do see it from Jaime's point of view that when he says that Littlefinger's amiable enough. So obviously that it's more that his facade that he's cultivated in the books is more apparent, where everyone does think that he is amiable, and that's the reason why they do trust him. So I did like that touch.
That was it's true. It's just a reminder that we, the reader's perception of Littlefinger, is very different than the average character's perception of Littlefinger. That's true.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is some fan fiction out there that people have been watching for the past 7 years that may have kind of cultivated this perception of Littlefinger that is highly untrue.
Highly suspect.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little
So-
bit.
please.
Yeah. So
So obvious in the show, like everyone knows that he's a creepy dude in the show. Like everyone's like, don't trust Littlefinger. And he's like,
Except
he's one of
Ed.
those mustache curling evil bad guys from, back when they were so obvious.
And that's why he's so much better in the book. He's like one of
Yeah,
the
I'm surprised the show didn't just have him talking like, yeah, yeah.
Although he does have one of the great speeches. The power is the
Yeah,
Chaos
chaos
is
is
a
a
ladder.
ladder. Huh? Yeah.
It's the only
Oh,
good thing
man.
that they gave him in the show. That speech.
My thoughts on the dream is like I really don't believe that Jaime and Cersei are Aerys kids. Now, if they are, my thing is this is probably a memory. Like say that the Mad King was Cersei and Jaime's father. That he is. I'm sorry. This is probably a memory right before. This had to happen right before he left King's Landing, in my opinion. If Joanna's still alive, she probably came to him. Now I'm just saying if. I don't know. It. We could find out, but I think it's highly unlikely. But I think it would be cool because Tywin tells Tyrion, "You aren't my son," and if this theory is true, then Tyrion was really probably his only son, and that's the shame.
Question: could anyone be fucking with Jaime to make him have this dream?
Oh yeah, few people, right?
It's possible. You never know. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure what their goal would be. That's the thing. It's like, what is the point of that? I definitely agree with a lot of what Tinker said about what the point of the dream is, that it's an identity. It's wrapped up in identity, not just his family identity, but his role as a member of the Kingsguard, which he still is in the book, not unlike the show where he was just dismissed. So that's a part of who he is, and that was one of the big arguments he had with his father. And I think part of the point of the dream is that he's going more towards the direction that his mother envisioned for their family, which was very different than what Tywin wanted. And that's part of it. It's like he's always kind of been identified with his father when really he's probably more like his mother. And Tyrion's the one who's more like Tywin, although not nearly as harsh or arrogant or cruel. But they have a lot in common.
Said that in one of the chapters.
Yeah, in this, and see, I think it's the chapter before this, with when Jenna Lannister is like, no, Tyrion is the one who's like Tywin, not you, and when she said that to Tywin, he didn't talk to her for a year. And so this is why Jaime and Tywin don't get along. Like Jaime and Tywin just like they're at odds on a lot of things. It's kind of it's always this is kind of proves it that he's he's more like, even though he didn't know his mother that well, she was gone when he was 7. It seems like he's more like her than Tywin. And that really bothered Tywin. And for a while, it probably subconsciously, Jaime was trying to follow his father's footsteps. And he's just like realizing, I got to break away from all this. This isn't who I am. I don't want to be with Cersei anymore. I don't, I want to live a life of honor. And well, who knows if he's gonna, but it's what he wants to do.
At least he's gonna try.
Yeah, which is great. He's gonna try, and it's gonna make his chapters really compelling as far as like a human interest story. Assuming he doesn't just like die really soon, which it's kind of funny when you get maimed in A Song of Ice and Fire. It almost means that the rest of you is safe. Like they didn't cut his hand off just to have him die a few chapters later. Like it meant, oh look, you get a redemption arc now, so that means you get to live for a while. It's like you lose your hand, but you gain plot armor. So,
I mean, yeah, but look at what happened with Tyrion though. Tyrion lost half of his nose. And Death's Death with Dragons, he's kind of a jerk for like most of the book.
I'm a jerk. He's an asshole.
Yeah, he's depressed and
where whores go.
he starts to get back to the old Tyrion by the end of the book. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see him lose his his humor and his wit and all that. It's all the things that make him great. His great reads on people, like he's so good. His insight was missing for a little while there because he was so sad and depressed and drunk, but he started to get it back.
Pissed me off. He really started to piss me off.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for saving Ser Jorah, man. He could have let Jorah be taken away, and he's like, no, take him with us.
Well,
No, actually, I hold that against him for saving Jorah.
Oh wow. you who do you not hate, Tinker? Jeez.
A lot of people. I love the Starks. I like the Tullys. I love the Martells. The book Martells, not show Martells. Let's be
Wait,
clear.
hold on. There were
loves
Martells
King
in the show?
With
She
one
loves
L.
King Robert.
The
She
Martells in the
loves
show have one L. That's how you can tell them apart.
No, there's one Martell of the shows that I love. Oberyn Martell. Pedro Pascal did a wonderful job.
Fair. Yeah, he did.
I don't understand how that happened. How do you nail one Martell so good and then completely destroy all the rest? It's just to me.
Well, you know what? There was one. Excuse me. There's a gentleman on YouTube. You should check out his videos if you were wondering how the Dorne storyline could have been done so badly. And his name is The Dragon Demands. Yeah, he makes these super long videos about these subjects. But if you want to know why Dorne was done so badly, you should check out his videos.
Yeah, there's some meta in there. Like they basically had other plans that they changed. Like Alexander Siddiq was confused as to how his role went because like they told him it would be larger, and apparently they changed their minds about some things. Like even that first scene with the Sand Snakes when they're like the dude's got the bucket over his head. Like what the hell was that about? Apparently, originally that scene was longer. There was actually an explanation for why that guy was buried in the sand, but they just skipped it all. So they actually had more of it planned out. What's that?
But the 3 casting of the Sand Snakes was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, that's so many other things they did wrong. There's no question it was the most botched storyline. Like no question.
The short summary. I'll just give the short answer for why they liked the girl, the one who played Ilaria Sand, and they wanted to expand her role. So that's why Dorne happened.
I thought Jessica Henwick was an absolute dream.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Ilaria Sand, like Deer of Armor, her acting is incredible. Like in the her final scene downstairs in the prison, her face was just like perfect. Like all that.
She was a great actress. Tragedy. It was an absolute waste of an actress. But they cast her when they cast Pedro Pascal as Oberyn Martell, which was also perfect casting because I absolutely loved and adored him. And I didn't understand.
They liked her so much they thought she could play Arion Martell's role too, part as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're getting a little.
We're getting off topic here.
Off topic, but you know.
And the balls just drive me nuts.
Hey, we just found out where Kraken was.
Really?
Yeah, he was apparently getting a tattoo.
Oh wow! Oh, okay.
Nice.
Well, shout out to Down to Kraken Wit getting tattoos and stuff. Hopefully, everything's
like got ink done. Just got a picture.
I hope he got a tattoo of Littlefinger. Is what I hope. More in the hand thing.
Maybe he got a tattoo saying "Roll Tide, Kraken."
Oh
no,
my God.
No, not a Littlefinger. No.
So, any final thoughts on the chapter and the possible implications for the Winds of Winter, or even further into the future? Free for all.
Just that Jeyne is the best character in the series. So that's it.
I think that's an exaggeration. But
okay, then finally,
all three have to die. I'll end it with that.
My quick thought that definitely Brienne is going to sacrifice herself for Jaime, and Lace Stoneheart's going to have to let go of Jaime. I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of attack on those soldiers and all that. But let's just come on, George, come out. We're waiting. We got a little taste with the Sons of the Dragon. We're waiting. Please, George, bring out Winds of Winter.
Ooh, I just thought of this.
Please, for the god of anything, just give us a Winds of Winter. It's getting
Fire and Blood.
Ridiculous, the wait.
Oh man. James?
Great chapter.
Robot James is in
here. I'm having internet issues.
Oh. All right, we'll come back to James. Aziz.
One thing I want to say real quick. Wouldn't it be pretty... Okay, say Blackfish does meet up with Stoneheart. What if when Jaime gets taken to Stoneheart, we see Blackfish and they have another showdown? That'd be sweet. That's all.
Okay. Aziz?
I like that idea. I like the idea. I also have been a fan of the Brienne will fight a trial by combat for Jaime, probably against Lemon Cloak or somebody. He's the most prominent warrior that's still in the Brotherhood. You know, Anguy and Edric Dane are gone.
We've had enough of this talk of Jaime beating Brienne beating the Hound. I don't know about that.
No, not the Hound. I mean, yeah, the Hound. I see what you did there. I'm a little slow. That was good. Okay, so, and I agree that this is like Jaime's big, you know, of all the things he does to redeem himself, this is among the biggest. Although there's no one specific thing he does in this chapter that's redemptive. It's his thoughts and what he apparently is going to do, which is giving up on Cersei and these other things. And I think that this is like I said at the beginning, this is just when you have people that say nothing happens in Feast for Crows, you just show them a chapter like this and just like name all the things that happen in this chapter and then be like, and that's just one chapter.
Yeah, Feast for Crows. Feast of Crows has a lot of depth to it.
Really
I
does.
think that you have to really sit down and be willing to analyze the implications and the ramifications of the events that take place in this story. And you know, with George being kind of anti-war, like this book especially shows the reason why war is so bad, and it could even, you know, get worse. So I mean, I'm imagining what he's working on for the Winds of Winter, which man, I mean, like I said, you know, just the destruction of the Riverlands, especially, which is a lot of the bulk of Brienne's chapters and what's happened there. I think that, yeah, we'll definitely, you know, get to see what the future ramifications are. And anyone out there who doesn't really like A Feast for Crows, sit down and take some time and really study those chapters, because there is a lot of profound messaging that is parceled out through them. All right, so James, we got you finally.
I don't know. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah.
We hear
You
you.
sound all right. You sound all right. Yeah.
Just yeah, I agree with what everybody said.
Yep.
Wow.
And then it just went robot again.
Eh.
Okay.
So much.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Oh man, listen. Yeah. Sorry about that, James. Hopefully, you know. Look, we gotta look. You know what, James? We need to start a GoFundMe for your internet connection, or just internet in the state of Kansas, overall, man. But
You got a storm going on right now, don't you? Storming out there.
the storm god does not like Kansas. Apparently, it is messing up James's connection.
The problem is, I think like the major internet stopped the street before James. What he said.
Oh man. All right, well, look. First off, I would like to thank Aziz for joining us and also for picking this chapter. Very, very excellent subject matter. You know, hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get to have you back on again at some point.
Absolutely, I'm down for it. I love talking chapters. You're a good group to chat chapters with, and yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks very much for having me. And I think you all know where to find me, but just in case, Westeros History on YouTube, History of Westeros on iTunes and SoundCloud and all those other places, and social media, all that. And that's that.
Yeah, link.
again.
It's in the description.
Yeah,
if
link is
anyone
in the
needs it.
description. You know,
Even
links to
better.
the YouTube channel. I'm horrible at doing links, but Lady Tinker, all the way from España. Let them know where they can find you and what you're doing.
My channel, Tinker Jasso. I do reaction videos and movie reviews every now and then. The movies normally arrive here later than they do there, so by the time that I see a movie, it's been a few weeks. Not always. A Marvel movie's coming out a week earlier here than there, and it's giving me a lot of joy being first. It's giving me tons of joy.
Nonsense.
But I'm also a Twitter, although I'm not great at the social media stuff. I try, but I'm just not great. Thank you, Aziz, for joining us. And by the way, I love your cats. That I've been seeing them roaming behind you, and I absolutely love cats. They've been a great entertainment.
I know, we love having them in our live streams too. We have 4 of them, so they pop up all over the place.
See 3.
Yeah. Of course. Jared Targaryen Steamboat.
Yeah, Jared the Targaryen Steamboat, and yeah, just find me on the High Spot channel. We haven't decided when or what we're going to do next reread on, but we'll probably be doing that in the near future.
Of course, it'll be in the future because it can't be in the past.
Whoa! If you guys do a past stream, I want to get involved.
Well, what if we have a fever dream that we haven't talked about it?
That would be very, very interesting. All right, man. Yeah. We literally just lost James. That's crazy. All right, well, LT, talk to the folks.
So I'm gonna try and keep this brief, but I got a lot to say. If you ever want to talk bad about Feast of Crows, come on, the King's Moot. Are you kidding me? You got so much good stuff about a Feast of Crows. I know it was hard to live up to Storm of Swords. It was so great, but I've always loved Feast of Crows. Now, Aziz, I just want to say it's an honor to have you on here. I've been listening to you before I even knew none of these guys. When you guys podcast, even when Steve was around, I was listening to the beginning. It's just such an honor to have you on here, man. And
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Jerry. Yeah, me and Jerry always say that if there was ever a class in a university that you should teach it, you should be a professor and teaching a class because you know this series so well, and your podcast is just great, and it's just an honor to have you on here.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. I really appreciate it.
No, definitely. And I want you guys to tune in for next week when we do with Tinker Jesso why she loves King Robert.
Oh yeah, I guess I want to do one more plug. You know, like I plugged in.
We need a screen cap of her face there.
Hey, King Robert.
Oh my god. Oh
yeah, I just want to do one more quick endorsement. Like, you know, I endorsed Lucifer Means Lightbringer the other day, but I mean, a lot of these guys are a little bit more advanced. But one thing that's good about Aziz is I mean, you can just read it once. He kind of covers a lot for you if you just start from the beginning from his podcast and just check it out. It's good for both beginners and advanced Song of Ice and Fire fans.
Word.
Yeah. And also shout out to Ashaya, who is also
she's actually right here off camera.
Hey, jump on camera and say hi.
You want to come wave real quick? We're signing off.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyways, unfortunately we weren't able to get James to do the sign off, but we will be back next month with another reread, and at some point we are gonna do a talk about Sons of the Dragon. Until then, you can you can check out the History of Westeros's chat that they did on Sons of the Dragon with Lucifer Means Lightbringer and Brynden B-Fish from Wars and Politics of Ice and Fire, and also the controller of the subreddit for A Song of Ice and Fire, as well, one of the administrators. Yeah. So, and real quick, before we officially jump out of here, gotta give a rest in peace shout out to Roy Dotrice.
Yes.
It was very fun listening to him do the different characters for the first 5 books in the series. He also did the World of Ice and Fire. He was the Pyromancer in season 2 of Game of Thrones. And another interesting fact, had he not gotten sick, he was actually supposed to be Grand Maester Pycelle. So yeah,
he was the Air Force pilot. He was a decorated Air Force pilot too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
dude, and a Shakespearean actor. Talk about a full life. I mean,
he met George on the he met George on the Beauty and the Beast TV show in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, that's how they met. I didn't realize that. That's cool. Yeah, George wrote for that show. That's small world.
So yeah, much respect and rest in peace and condolences to family of Roy Dotrice. Damn it, George. Now we'll never get to hear the Winds of Winter with Roy Dotrice, man.
Yeah, that's
maybe they'll get a full cast though this time.
Now, listen, if anything, I say either we get Aziz, Yoke Boy, and or Civilization X
Ooh, that'd be cool.
to do
Why
the
not
narration.
all of the above plus a few female voices as well?
Oh yeah,
I've never been on a stream with Civ X. That'd be fun.
He doesn't really do the stream thing, but you know he's a great friend of the channel. Really good guy, solid guy.
He does, yeah. He's a big friend of everybody. He's a great community guy.
So links to all of our people here in the description, and let us know what you think about the new layout. I gotta make a quick adjustment because I didn't realize that whoever was gonna be in the bottom left hand or right hand corner would be kind of halfway cut off by the thumbnail. But you know, we're making adjustments, trying to make this thing as great as possible for all of you people out there. So thank you to everyone who has watched us live. Thank you to all of those who will be watching us in the future. And let me see if this thing actually will roll the credits. I am live. Why is it not rolling credits? Oh well. Can't win no more. Anyway, you already know the deal is rate, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends to come back for more. We are the Hypes Watch. We'll be back again sooner rather than later. And this is Don Willie saying Vala Dohyrus.
Later, everyone. Little finger for Hand of the King. Go Stros. Houston strong.
Yankees for life, you bastard.
Not the evil empire.
Are we off?